Okay, here are your solutions to 4-1 guided practice. Problem number 1 tells us the table shows the number of text messages that Brad sent over 4 days. So here is our table of values. And in letter A, they ask us to write an equation to find the total number of messages sent in any number of days. Describe the relationship in words. So the way that I would start to look at this is, remember this, we always have an input here and we have an output here. So we could consider this our x values and this our y values in the table. So those are a couple of things that you can think about in regard to this. So first of all, I would say if you think about it, an output is what is the result to the equation. So the result is going to be m, so we would have m equals, and then we're going to have some sort of a slope. Now, one of the things I want you to understand here is in this case m stands for messages, not the slope. So we're going to have slope times our input value. And in this case, our input value is the letter D. So what we really need to figure out is what are we multiplying D by in order to get the output of M. And if you take a look at this, we can compare the 1 and the 50. Obviously we multiply 1, our input, times 50 to get the output of 50. So there's our test. So we can try it again in the next two values. 2 times 50 is also 100. So obviously we are multiplying by 50. So we can take a look over here and say that our output messages is dependent on multiplying the input D by 50D. So that's our equation. First of all, write an equation. And then the second thing it says is describe the relationship in words. And to describe that relationship in words, we can just say this, that Brad sends 50 messages per day. Now we've got this equation here. And let's take a look at B. It says use our equation to find how many text messages Brad would send in 30 days. So 30 days becomes our input. So we have the messages equals 50 times 30 days. Well, we can multiply 5 times 3 is 15 and add our 2 zeros, and we will have Brad sent 1,500 messages in 30 days. Number 2. The graph shows the amount of money the Rockwell family budgets for food each month. Write an equation to find the total amount of money, C, budgeted in any number of months, M. So M is going to become our input, and C is going to become our output. We'll put an out here. Okay? Use the equation to determine how much money the Rockwell family should budget for 12 months. So first of all, it asks us to create an equation. So again, we have an output of C, so we're going to say C equals, and we're going to multiply something, we don't know what yet, we'll put the circle here, times M. So now let's go back to our table, because remember, this right here represents our slope. So all we need to do is find the slope of our line, and we can do that in a couple of different ways. Probably the easiest would be to go the change in Y, which would be 1250 minus 625, 1,250 minus 625. That represents our change in Y over the change in X. 2 minus 1 is 1. So that's easy. So we have 1250 minus 625, and that calculates to 625, and we're going to put it over 1 just so we recognize that that's a slope. So in other words, we're rising 625 over 1, rise 625 over 1, and that does indeed match our line here. So our equation is C equals 625 M. And now the next thing they want us to do is calculate 12 months. So we're going to do C equals 625 times 12, and that gives us C equals $7,500. So those are your two answers. Here is your equation, and here is your solution for the total budgeted dollars for 12 months. All right, let's take a look at problem number 3. A store receives an average of 7 new movies per week. Write an equation to find the number of new movies M in any number of weeks. So again, write an equation to find the number of new movies M in any number of weeks. So first of all, we have M equals some number times our input of N. We have 7 movies per week. So 7 movies per week, let's write it this way, 7 movies per week. Our unit rate is our slope. Okay, problem number 3. A store receives an average of 7 new movies per week. That's a key stat there. Letter A asks us to write an equation to find the number of movies M, so that's going to be our output. M equals, in any number of weeks, W. So M equals some number times our input of W. But they also gave us this bit of information here, 7 movies per week. If we look at it this way, 7 movies per week, we recognize that this is our unit rate, so a unit rate is actually the slope, and this of course is where our slope belongs, so it more or less defines our equation for us right off the bat. So we have movies equals 7 times the number of weeks. So our first answer is right here, M equals 7W. Now letter B says make a table to find the number of new movies received in 4, 5, 6, or 7 weeks, and then graph those ordered pairs. So the first thing we're going to do is say that our input is W, our calculation is going to be 7 times W, and our output is going to be movies. And they asked us to do it for 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is 7 times 4. Here we have 7 times 5, 7 times 6, and of course 7 times 7. And our outputs would be 28, 35, 42, and 49. So now we have ordered pairs. I'll write the first ordered pair here. We can graph 4, 28. So immediately we should recognize that because weeks is our input, we would put weeks here. And because movies is our output, we should put movies. And now we just graph 4, 28, 5, 35, 6, 42, and 7, 49. And those are your solutions to problem number 3. You could indeed put a line on this and show that we can graph it like so. Okay, building on the essential question, how can you use a graph to write an equation? Well, the simple way to take a look at that is think about the fact that really all you need to do is find 2 points, and by choosing those 2 points you can find the slope, and then you can use the slope and one of those points in the slope-intercept form to find the y-intercept, and then you can write the equation. Please do independent practice.